Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this incident response brief regarding the cyber incident currently happening at the Abyssal Pearl. We are Team 78 and the whole team chipped in for this presentation. A quick summary of the asset that we're dealing with. It's a production rig 200 nautical miles offshore in the Pacific Ocean. It's positioned on the continental shelf, i.e. within the US exclusive economic zone. It's a highly sensitive ecological area. We have no cap on liability, and there are limits to how much we can emit and flare from the platform. It is the newest rig in the fleet. It was commissioned 18 months ago. It's highly automated production and designed in compliance with the most recent standards and regulations. Hereunder adhering to the IACS cyber resilience rules, which state that we need to be able to put the rig into a safe condition independent of the industrial control system. The current state is that the compressor trains are inoperable. The rig is put in safe state. However, we're not producing from it. The network is currently regarded as hostile, i.e. we are operating in a disconnected island mode, and we are assessing that the ICS network is properly isolated from the production system. A quick overview of what we are dealing with here. Currently, the bore fluid is shut in, i.e. there's nothing coming up from the ground. We are not exporting gas nor oil from the rig, and we are currently flaring off the gas that was in the production system at shutdown. And now my colleague will talk about the risks.
In terms of our risk assessment, we have designated operational risk as medium. Our operators on site were able to manually activate the flare and pilot valve, or else the site would not be safe to approach. Our largest unknown is the scope of the cyber attack. We need to be aware of follow-up attacks, possible backdoors attackers left in the system, maybe data like some information stored on site. In terms of regulatory and financial risk, we do have strict timelines for flaring offshore. So if we exceed these, we run into risk of fines. We also need to prepare disclosures for different governmental agencies. In terms of financial risk, we have halted our production at the moment. In terms of reputational risk, we did have no oil spill, so our safety environmental risk is also low. However, we may lose faith in some of our security practices. Some strategies to reduce risk include operating with manual controls by continuing to flare and shutting in the flow of new fluid. We need to allocate resources for our threat hunt team and forensics team so we can find these vulnerabilities, patch them, and this will allow us to bring the oil rig back into operation. In terms of regulatory risk and financial risk, as long as we limit our emissions and continue compliance with different governmental agencies while also doing necessary disclosures, we should be able to mitigate these risks. In terms of reputational risk, as long as we move through the news cycle quickly, we can limit any hits to our reputation. And also, as long as we continue to monitor the situation and prevent a buildup of pressure, we should be able to reduce and mitigate all risk for safety and environmental concerns.
So we need to first prepare an informations package in our initial plan of action. So that involves notifying the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission, which must be done within 4 days. We have to contact the CISA and the U.S. Coast Guard and the National Response Center. And also the EPA must be notified within 30 days. The next thing we need to do is we need to get some source expert assistance, which would take 1 day, which involves notifying the sub-supplier and getting some factors of suspicion back. We also have to mobilize teams for reestablishing the operation and also getting them to do some threat hunting, some forensics, coordination, and communication. The next thing we need to do, we need to determine our blast radius, which involves assessing and confirming that the ICS is isolated from production. Next thing is we need to preserve the integrity of forensics data, which involves getting it, preserving it from image memory and storage. We have to hunt for the rogue logging node, and we have to gather logs in the 40-second blackout. Lastly, we need to wipe systems and bring them online again from backup and bring them to a clean state. The next thing we need to do, as a follow-up to our initial plan of action, we need to increase monitoring on the network, which will take 7 days. We can generate specifications for the hardening of the network, which will take 14. We have to commission a hardened network and update procedures, which will take about a month. The rig should be able to continue production in 1 week with enhanced monitoring and should be back to normal operations in roughly 2 months. Yeah, and here's a timeline of that, which you can look at in the slides.